Welcome to a video on the Lexus LC500h, and the H stands for hybrid, go figure. Now if you want to learn all about the LC, check out my review on the LC500 V8. It covers everything that you want to know: interior, exterior, underbody, under the hood. It's so exhaustive it'll probably put you to sleep, but that is what it is. Now, onto this guy. It's not completely different from the V8 version. It's pretty much all the same except the transmission and the engine. Now, before I go on to the underneath of this car and drive it, you got to talk about the way that this thing looks. Not only that, the interior, just the overall design is pretty impressive. This does not have the sport package like the previous LC that I had, so you don't have the 21-inch wheels. You don't have some of the fluff on the interior, the fancier seats, the kind of the better textures. But for the most part, other than that, this car at its core is almost identical looking. This blue paint is unbelievable in the right light. It goes almost purple. It kind of changes even when you have sunglasses on. It's like, wow, does it really look great even then? Just the front end design, the long sweeping lines, the roof line, all of it, it just makes this one of the most interesting cars Lexus has ever made. And I said this on the previous video, this has got to be one of my favorite modern cars on the market currently. And there's so many reasons why, but one of the big reasons is the interior. If you just take a look at it, the level of craftsmanship that went into this, even compared to exotic cars or super expensive cars, is really good. It's solid, it's quiet, there's no creaks or rattles, there's no quality issues, and that's why I believe this is pretty much the best car Lexus has ever made. Well, maybe the LFA aside, this is something really cool. If you're, obviously, if you're a Toyota person or a Lexus person, you're really gonna love this. Now that the LC500h is on the bend pack lift, we can take a look at the underbody, and so much of this is a carryover from the V8 version. All aluminum suspension, your lower control arm, your knuckle, your upright to your upper A-arm, which is a split design that connects it to the reinforced alloy shock tower. And this is very clever. There's a lot of reasons why they do this. The only thing you're gonna notice is one of the lower control arms is steel, and that's largely because of the curvature. It's also designed that way to clear the toe links. Now, these have massive, just hilariously big front brakes. The dust shields are aluminum, and the subframe is aluminum up front. And you can tell this matches its price point pretty well. You have electronically controlled dampers. There's no air suspension on this car. And then what you're gonna see here is just a bunch of shields and your typical composite covers that go all the way back. Now the big difference is this has Lexus's new V6 or 3.5 liter V6 paired to a new hybrid system, their 6th generation version. Now a lot of this is carryover. It has an ECVT, which has 3 different gear ratios, or it can do 3 different gear ratios, that has also MG1 and MG2, which is motor generator units. The MG1 still starts the engine, it acts as a starter, and MG2 can act as the power unit, which through the transmission can supply engine power and electric power at the same time, giving that hybrid effect. Now, the big deal here is the multi-stage hybrid system that they're trying to employ. And the big thing with this car, and you hear this a lot, is the transmission performance. They want it to be rhythmic, which means it has this consistency, this smoothness, and this like almost musical effect of a timing, like a consistent timing through gear switches. So with an ECVT and the new 4-speed, well, it's a planetary gear set, the 4-speed that they've added onto the ECVT gives you almost legitimately 10 gears, just like the 10-speed automatic in the V8. And it can do these different ratios, and of course it can adjust itself based on the modes of how it shifts, how fast it shifts, and they want it to feel like a conventional automatic, but even faster. So it's a very strange experience when you're driving this, but it doesn't have the rubber band effect of a regular CVT. It will fool almost anybody, that even automotive enthusiasts, to think that it is legitimately a 10-speed auto. Now, the benefit of all this is the electronics and how it controls the new part of the transmission with the old, and how it can change things and make it feel smoother or faster. It's a very trick system that I'll be interested to see how they evolve it and if they put it in other vehicles. But I think what they've done here is they've tried to make it more of a performance style, continuously variable system, eliminating a lot of the negative attributes that their old system had, where it was just kind of like blah, kind of a boring, droning experience. This is always shifting. It's trying to give you the feeling of a traditional transmission. In the back of the hybrid, it looks very similar to the V8 version. The obvious details are it has a different exhaust system. Now, it is a true dual exhaust from the front all the way to the back, but then it combines into this kind of large-scale muffler, which acts as a diffuser. It helps to flow air off all these panels and push it out the back of the car smoothly, which reduces drag. Now, other things you'll notice is, there's a ton of covers back here. You'll see your power cables for the battery pack that's in the back. But most of your suspension's all aluminum, with the exception of a few control arms, and your subframe is stamped steel. The other thing that this doesn't have is the four-wheel steering module, which frees up a lot of space back here as well. Now, the hybrid battery pack in the LC has about 84 cells, and this makes it about 20% lighter than a comparable nickel metal hydride battery pack that they used to use. Now, this is able to put out 44 kilowatts, which is the equivalent of about 60 horsepower. When you combine the electric mode with the gasoline engine, you get about 354 horsepower, which on this car feels very adequate with the way that the transmission puts the power down. Now, the other thing that it can do is it can run in EV-only mode, which means it can shut the engine down and run in EV mode up to about 86 miles an hour. Now, you literally have to be breathing on the throttle, honestly, otherwise the gasoline motor will kick in. It's not a pure EV, even though it can operate in EV mode. It doesn't allow you any plug-in features, but it does supplement a lot. So if you're just, putting around your neighborhood, you can pretty much run in EV mode until it depletes that battery energy. Now I'm going to take the LC500H for a quick drive and kind of explain the impressions that I have there. I am setting off in one of my favorite vehicles in modern history, the LC500. Only this is the hybrid version. I spent so much time on the V8. I'm not going to rehash everything because so much of the good is still here, but this is a completely different driving experience. Go figure. You've lost the V8. You now have a 3.5 liter Toyota with an eCVT and a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, obviously, I went over all the details of that in the shop, but here's the thing. This car feels so good to be behind the wheel. And I said this with the V8 version. There's just this high level of quality that you get when you sit on the inside of this. And I just got out of the McLaren, and I feel like, this has so many of the things that exotic cars have on the interior. It just feels like a special place. And that's one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest intangibles about buying and owning a car. The LC500 makes you feel good when you drive it. Now, the hybrid is strange, but once you get used to it, I can see it being good for almost a huge population of people that are looking at this car. If you want the looks, you want the feel, you want the quality, but you don't necessarily need all the horsepower, the sound, and the V8. This does a lot of what the regular LC does. And it does a few things better. One, it's quieter because this is constantly more in EV mode. It always feels more relaxed. The engine doesn't have the exhaust growl, and one of the nicest things about it is I'm getting almost 29 miles per gallon my entire time driving this. And you know, that's something that I didn't get with the V8 LC500. You want to drive that car harder, and I was getting like 15 miles to the gallon, which was really, really bad. Now the negative things are still here, and some of it is the ride quality. Now, even more on the hybrid version, I would expect the ride quality to be way better. I feel like they should have softened it up. And that was a big complaint I had with the LC500 is, you know, for a cruiser, I just wanted to do better over broken pavement, and it just hasn't done that for me. The hybrid is kind of the same story. It's too firm for what it is. I feel like if you're gonna put adaptive dampers on the car, have them have the ability to soften up, give you a true soft mode, and this just doesn't have it. It's always in that medium to firm setting, and I know this is trying to be that, you know, sporty grand touring machine. It could just be better, and I think that's my major complaint, and pretty much my only complaint about this car driving it. Now, in terms of handling, you know, for the most part, that's where this car excels. Yeah, you get a rougher ride, but it really does turn in well. It does handle well, and I think that's one of the redeeming parts of it. It has all the same characteristics of the LC500 with the V8. You know, so it's about the same deal there. Now I'm going to come to a stop. I'm going to put this in Sport Plus. I'm going to turn off the traction control, not snow mode. I'm going to turn off traction stability control, which is not completely defeatable on this car, which is fine. Put this in sport mode, manual mode, rather. And let's take off from a stop and see how this does. Now, manual mode is pretty much worthless. It doesn't allow you to hang on to the gears. It will auto upshift for you, which kind of eliminates the fun of it. Now, you can downshift, and the transmission is just kind of good in automatic mode. I find very little purpose in using it in manual mode at all. It's smart enough to kind of downshift for you, even in kind of like slower traffic conditions, it will downshift to slow you down. Now, the other oddity is the fake engine noise, which I haven't found a way to turn it off, and that's kind of a big downer because it just sounds so synthetic. The V6 in here, you know, sounds better than this, but they have to augment it for whatever reason. Take a listen. Yeah, it doesn't do it for me, but you know what? I haven't been driving it like that. I have just been driving it in eco and comfort mode, and I think that's how you deal with this car for the most part. The performance is pretty good. Surprisingly, this thing moves out. And when I said earlier, I think this car is going to do it for most people that want the LC500. They want the looks, they want the prestige, the quality. That's what you're getting from this. And of course, you're getting it does move. So I've been pretty pleased with it overall in terms of performance, handling, all the looks, the feel, the quality of it, and then of course Toyota's pretty much bulletproof reliability with their hybrid drivetrain. It just depends on the type of person you are. If you want the kind of the status of this car without the V8, well, you have an option here. So it's just another nice addition, and of course this is a technology exhibition for Lexus to kind of prove they can do this and make it in a more performance, you know, package the hybrid system in a more performance manner without trying to sell it as a sports car. You might be attracted to that, but that's it for the driving segment. Let's get on to the final thoughts. Final thoughts on the LC500H. I said this in the regular V8 review. This is one of my favorite modern cars to come out pretty much ever. There's a level of prestige that this vehicle brings that Lexus hasn't been able to pull off in the past. And here you have it. People look at this It feels more expensive than it is. It has a great interior. Everything's put together well. The architecture underneath is a true performance / luxury platform. There's so much to like about it. And the hybrid version just kind of takes the same formula and gives you something that is a little bit less brash and way more fuel efficient than the V8. That's why you buy this. If you don't want to drive around and get 14 to 17 miles per gallon, you buy the hybrid. And with me driving and getting 28 miles to the gallon, it's extremely impressive. And you know, you could literally drive this around all day and not have any of those negative attributes of a V8 car. So what are the negatives? Well, it's the same as the LC500 video that I did before. I don't like the way this thing rides over broken pavement. It's far too firm. It's too stiff for what it is. They need to go back and look at the dampers and the spring rates and see if they can get it softened up a bit for just regular driving, because you're not going to be pounding this thing around. It's not that hardcore sports car, especially the hybrid version. You're not going to be driving like a madman. The second thing that I'm kind of on the fence about is this simulated 10-speed that they're trying to give you with these rhythmic shifts. Sometimes it feels exactly like a 10-speed automatic, and other times it just seems very synthetic. And you add the fake engine noise in, those are the two things that kind of just irk me driving it. I wish you had a way to turn off the kind of that induction sound of that speaker or synthesizer sound that it's generating, much like you can't on the RCF. So, I mean, other than that, I really, really like this car. You're going to have almost no negatives of buying this, and you're going to get Toyota and Lexus reliability. And at this price point, that's a huge pro compared to some of the, you know, German competitors where you're going to be phobic about owning it out of warranty. This, not so much. So take care. Hope that was a helpful video, and see you next time.